I know this will probably sound like a cliche, but I really am honored to be here and to be among all of you. Also, I'm thankful for CGA for inviting us here. And also, I'm grateful for my studio for trusting me with this one. So, finger crossed, hopefully, I will not disappoint them, yeah. But either way, we have prepared for you a small sneak peek into the art of Scars Above the Worlds Inside. And before I start, I thought that playing trailer here would be the most appropriate place just to make you slightly more familiar with the game that I'll be talking about today. So yeah, please enjoy.
We always wondered if we're alone in the universe. We observed and explored, but found nothing. Until now.
It has been 6 months since the alien object known as the Metahedron suddenly appeared above Earth's atmosphere.
Personal log, sentient contact assessment and response team.
Kate, we have an issue.
What happened?
Power supply failing.
Sensors offline.
I'm switching to backup generators.
Yeah. So, what this game is all about. So, Scars Above is challenging, immersive, third-person shooter inspired by modern-type action-adventure games. It is a game of discovery and mystery. And something from this game we will discover today. But first, we will discover what we wanted to achieve visually and what our art pillars were. So being a sci-fi, it let us do basically whatever we wanted. But we set some goals for ourselves. We wanted to explore a biodiverse planet, a place where you can go from kinda Earth-like places to some more sci-fi brutalism or even some underground structures. And we also wanted our visuals to support meaningful and impactful gameplay. And our art pillars are following. Believability. While this can be described in many ways, we wanted to convey the feel of realism on one hand and cinematic feel on the other. So we came up with the term cinematic realism as our goal. Next, we wanted rich atmospheres. And here we focused on mood to guide the story, composition to guide the player, and mystery to guide exploration. And lastly, we have contrasted immersion. And here we wanted to cover things from claustrophobia, organic, small and closed, to opposite of that, such as vista, big and huge, and structured, and so on. And while being on subject of worlds, let's talk about them. So from our worlds and environments, we wanted them to be believable, immersive, and rich in atmosphere. Environments themselves have the ability or can be active part of the game. Very rich environments have their own personality and can be tremendously impactful to gameplay and action. And one key feature that we wanted from our world of Scars Above is that it's biodiverse. And here, today, we will take a look at some biomes that you can find yourself in. So I'll start by showing you one of our levels near the beginning of the game. The same part that some of you may have experienced if you were on this year's Gamescom. And we call it Swamp. Of course, we will talk about how we developed it. And as you can imagine, building such a level where you need to think about things like combat, player traversals, flow, art itself, is not an easy task, especially if you need to keep up the good frame rate, yeah. But as everything complex in life, the best way of approaching things is to dissect it into smaller, more manageable chunks. So first, we wanted to define the look and feel of our swamp. So we brainstormed and established the core ideas of our level. And here we imagined a rundown, moisty, moody place full of moss and dirty water with hint of unrest. And after that, after brainstorming and everything, we tried to find good references, and our concept artist went on to create some concepts for us. And some of them you can see here. Yeah, we got that moody feel that we wanted to achieve. And some of them later on came to life, such as this one. And after brainstorming and concepting the mood, we did a blockout. The blockout itself can be at different phases of complexity, depending on how much it is needed to convey the idea of the level and feel of the level. And honestly, for this one, the simple blockout was more than good enough. And so our artist can take over from there. But to get to this point, we needed to start producing assets. Assets that would be good to be used here, but also to be used elsewhere if needed. So we came up with few highly reusable assets such as boulders, rocks, trees, organic blobs, grass, and so on. And with asset production, we like to put our people in teams of two, 3D artist on one hand and texture artist on the other. That way, one person can do everything needed in 3D, while the other can think about how to texture those assets. And with Swamp being such a level that is made out, as I said, from boulders, trees, rocks, and all of those assets are quite big, they cannot be textured uniquely. For all of you that might be slightly less familiar with the term unique textures, that's basically when you have your 3D model you unwrapped, you put it inside the texturing program of your choice, do texturing there, and what you get out of it is what we call unique or one-on-one textures. And while that's all good and nice, being a game, we cannot have too many 4K, or last-gen consoles, 4K or even, God forbid, 8K textures. So with 2K textures on those big assets, yeah, they would look too low res and too muddy. So we needed to figure out a way how to texture them. And of course, yeah, the obvious answer for that are tiling textures. So we made sets of useful tiling textures for this level, and we applied them on our models, either via vertex colors, custom RGB masks, or some shader magic such as slope shaders and so on. And while all that techie art jazz might be fun for some, and it's fun for me at least, all that big environment stuff needed some smaller, more intimate stories to be fun and engaging. And it also circles back to one of our art pillars that we set for our game, such as being believable and rich in atmosphere. And you cannot get either if you don't have micro stories, aka environment storytelling. So the one that I'll share with you is also inside our swamp. We are approaching the cave that is full of the equipment from our ship, but in the same time, it's also covered in organic residue. So it brings a lot of questions. And here we have the perfect opportunity to tell a lot of those, as I said earlier, small, more intimate and interesting stories, such as who did this? What did they even try to do? Was it someone from Micro or someone else? Oh, there's a bed on the floor, so someone was there for a prolonged period of time. There's a workbench, so they tried to make something there, and so on. So we as the player, when we see this, we may come to all kinds of different conclusions. And exactly that is the power of micro stories. They bring a lot of value to your game, and you should use it definitely. And it's also, as I said, circled back to our art pillars. And being in this cave, I thought that explaining some basics of art and how we use that to guide our player. So by looking at this shot, you may see some basics of art composition, such as subframing, where we use that entrance of the cave to frame everything inside, resulting in more interest there. Lighting helps with that as well, making it the brightest part of the scene And our eyes have the tendency to look at the brightest part of the image first. Next, we had those pointy organic stuff that also brings focus to the inside of the cave, as well as the cables on the floor, all together working to ensure that player will probably go there to find out, as we saw earlier, a lot of interesting story bits and pieces. And as I said, the Scars Above is full of all kinds of environments and worlds, and I'll share one more with you. This one is one of my personal favorites, and even though I will not reveal how it's called, for now we will call it just Organic Part. And here, we wanted to convey something different, something more creepy. And being a sci-fi, it let us discover how we wanted to convey the feel of, as I said, organic part, excuse me. And we as the player here, we are unsure of our location, but all we know is that we want to get out of here and get out of here alive. And similar with Swamp, we wanted to, we first went on to find good references, as I said. And even though I would like to share them with you, I think they would be probably too much for the average stomach, because yeah, we have some crazy artists on our team, and but just for good measure, I think I can share some that are easy to digest. But jokes aside, yeah, for this level, we tried to do that some section of the level feels claustrophobic, and others to feel like you are in more open-like space. Also circling back to one of our pillars, contrasted immersion. So we got tiny corridors and tunnels on one hand, and more open-like spaces on the other. That also allowed us to have some really interesting story bits and pieces there, but in the same time, visually, we could achieve something very interesting and unique. And our level designers did a great job here. Some of them might be here today, sorry. But yeah, either way, they really did a great job, and we really ended up loving how this level feels. They also produced majority of block-out meshes, but slightly more detailed than usual. And it was a good thing, because our 3D artists later on had much easier time, which is always good. On top of that, some assets we could reuse from previous part of the game, and that's also quite handy. And some of the assets that we used for addressing this level are these. And even though they have relatively simple shapes, they are easy to kit bash together, meaning they are like Legos. You have few different pieces, and combining them together, you can get new shapes and forms. Hopefully this will be slightly high res. But yeah, combining them like Legos, you can get new forms and shapes, and that way you can dress the level however you want, as you can see here. So yeah, basically relatively simple shapes. Yeah, it's intended for my phone, but don't mind that. You can basically, I don't know how well you can see me, but basically you can, like Legos, as I said, you can kit bash them together and get new shapes and forms, and that's always nice. Yeah, I tried to make joke here, but yeah. But we ended up really using these as references for our materials. And these are some of the materials that my lead made for this level. And we used vertex blending to blend between these, vertex colors to blend between these textures. And for that, we first had a low poly mesh, and we baked those basic maps, such as AO, curvature, and so on. But we didn't use them as they are. We drive that information from them and then use it to get our vertex colors. You can do it in Maya, 3ds Max, even Blender. But yeah, we use those to drive the blending between our materials. And for some special like corner cases, we still have Unreal's vertex paint tool to get that handcrafted look, and we manually could paint blends however we wanted. But as you saw, these assets are used in a level that has specific lighting and full of subsurface scattering, so it's kind of hard to notice texture repetition. And on top of that, because we used vertex colors, we didn't have to use custom RGB mask to drive the blends between them, which is also good because less memory, more performance, and happy tech artist. And terrain here was also one of nice touches. It helped us get that nice, crunchy feel that we wanted to achieve. And speaking of the feel that we wanted to achieve, I would say arguably that lighting has the most impact here. I mean, this is one of my personally favorites level, and majority of that is because of the lighting. But the challenge that we faced here was player orientation. Too many turns and corners caused some players to feel slightly disoriented after enemy encounters and such. So we needed to figure out a way how to guide the player. And once again, how about landmarks? So we as humans are really good at picking up things that stand out from the rest. So if you go from tiny corridors and tunnels to more open-like spaces with some specific shapes or light patterns, there's a good chance that we will remember that. And that's exactly what we try to do here, as I will try to explain with these colors. So painted with that yellow, there's a down cliff that suggests it's no there for the player. Painted with pink, before us across that gap is web-like structure that is kinda quite unique looking and I would say easy to remember. Also we had painted with that blue, though that organic wall with light behind. And there's also a path that leads on the right, sharp right. And on top of that, we added that organic arch structure that players need to go below, painted with that red lighting. And all that together to ensure that we made good landmark for players to be able to recognize this place if they ever come back here. And as you guessed, this world has even more of its secrets. But what the world would be if it's empty? So we needed to make the world alive, and we needed our creatures. And the idea of our creatures wasn't to make them too supernatural. We didn't want to go that route too heavily. We wanted to be grounded as much as possible, and we drew the inspiration from elements of our own world, such as insects, reptiles, beasts, and so on, but with horror twists and feel of uneasiness. And similar as with world, we wanted our creatures, as I said, to be believable and grounded as much as possible. And after initial inputs from design and what they wanted from our creatures, artistically we started thinking about what and how our creatures should look like. And for the swamp, we wanted to have some creature that is slow, but in the same time that could attack us from afar. So we came up with a creature called Glutton. It's big bipedal creature with front side of its body made out of those tentacles. And even though it lacks agility, those tentacles are quite big and used for attacking us, as you can see here. And internally, it's one of our favorite creatures. And with swamp being such a moist, run-down place with a lot of water, we also wanted to have ability or to have some creature that is able to attack us from there at any time. So, as I said earlier, we drew inspiration from the nature, and we wanted and liked the idea of combining some insect-like animals with some kind of snail creature or whatever. And combining those, we got our Scorpion. And this one went through quite a lot of iteration, but in the end, we are quite happy where we are. And as you saw on the last slide of the organic world, there's a lot more creatures that awaits for you in the worlds of Scarsabal. And continuing previous story about creatures, something also happened to some of our crew members, or at least it seems like it. And we are finding our captain, Mr. Robinson, well, to put it mildly, old, weird, and terrifying. Hopefully the video will work. But yeah, there's no sound for this one. That's fault of my own, but seeing this for the first time did make us feel like, what the hell is going on there? I'll play it one more time. Hopefully it will work. But yeah, it did feel us like, it make us feel like, what the hell is going on there? And even though I would like to dissect this scene into so many pieces and talk about it for a while, I think this is a good opportunity to talk about how we did those mutations on this character. And for our characters, not through time, but for our characters, we used metahumans. And while being such a nice tool for fast production of regular, high-quality humans, we experimented and found out they are quite nice for custom modifications as well. And as you saw, for our Captain Mr. Robinson, we wanted to portray him as an almost dead white shell full of scars and burns. And for that, we used Substance Painter. We imported the original metahuman mesh and textures and then start tweaking them. And even though we could first go in ZBrush and sculpt those scars and burns there, and then later on do bake them and do texturing elsewhere, we felt it is not needed, and the Substance Painter gave us the result that we wanted. In the end, it's just a matter of workflow, and it depends on individual artist, but it means there are possibilities, which is always good. And we are really excited to see where the metahumans will bring us, and all those new updates and stuff is really exciting for us, especially in the future. And it's finally time to speak a little bit about our main protagonist, Dr. Kate Ward. The player takes the role of the Kate Ward, a scientist sent on the mission to figure out what is that object that appeared near the Earth's atmosphere. But suddenly then, she ended up stranded on that alien planet. There, she uses scientific means to solve the problems, from analyzing and scanning flora and fauna to crafting various tech gadgets and even weapons to overcome that hostility of this new world. And as we progress through story, we will gather more knowledge, and those will help us craft even more stuff that will protect us. And for our weapons, we also needed them to be believable, but more in terms of being made out of stuff, or that is being able to made out of stuff that we can find on the spaceship, or from the natural goods on that new planet. We played a lot with shapes and components of every weapon to get the feel that we wanted to achieve, but mostly we wanted this weapon to be fun to use. And here, once again, hopefully, yep. Here are some variation that you will be able to craft along your journey as you gather more knowledge, and it's quite nice. And these are just few weapons that you will be able to have, but not to reveal too much, because we want you to experience this firsthand. I will just share some outfits of Kate that you will be able to have on your journey, along many more things that, even though I would like to share, because this game is still not released, I cannot. So hopefully this story made you slightly more interested in our game. And of course, this is a big, huge thank you to the whole team that was making this game. And if you don't mind, I would like to play the trailer here one more time.
We always wondered if we're alone in the universe. We observed and explored, but found nothing. Until now.
It has been 6 months since the alien object known as the metahedrons suddenly appeared above Earth's atmosphere.
Personal log, sentient contact assessment and response team.
Kate, we have an issue.
What happened?
Power supply failing.
Sensors offline.
I'm switching to backup generators.
Thank you. Thanks.
Savo. And now, do we have some questions for our guest? Please.
If you have some. Yeah, go ahead.
Just please wait for the microphone. The girl will give you, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so when you showed the mesh imported into Substance Painter with the mutations on the captain's face and neck, did you use deformers to deform the original geometry of the metahuman itself, or was it an additional mesh like plastered on top of the metahuman geometry?
Those organic pieces, they were additional ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have metahumans, and because of the rig and how the metahumans works, we couldn't just move vertices from the metahumans. We needed to make new geometry and new rig for that.
And the texture blending between the additional geometry and the mesh, did you paint across the? This is a more
I know.
technical.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, so
I'm texture artist, so
I'm more of a generalist, but I'm interested in the technical bits. So did you paint across the two geometries to like blend the two texture maps together, or how did you achieve that?
Yeah, for that, because in this project we didn't use virtual textures, and those would allow us to have UDIMs inside of Unreal Engines, in Unreal Engine. But we in Substance Painter we did use that, but just exported and renamed those. So basically, you have, as you know, you have your UVs from metahumans, and then separately you have UVs from that organic part. And in Substance Painter, you can check box to use UDIMs, and then you can freely paint across UDIM seams. But in the end, because we didn't use, as I said, virtual textures, we couldn't just import them in Unreals, but we just renamed those as separate. So we have basically two draw calls or two material slots on that character. Yep.
Hello?
Yeah. Hi.
So when you're starting to build an environment, what's the percentage of unique meshes and tileable things? So when you start planning for the environment, you decide, okay, let's make 5 to 10 tileable textures, and then you build the whole environment with those. So is this how you work?
Yeah, kind of like it changes as you go, because you never can know for sure, like, will you have some specific corner case that you will need things for you to adapt. But overall, yeah, that's basically how you work. You have block out that level design did in this case, and after that you can see, I need, I don't know, few boulders, few smaller rocks, and few like ground meshes. And then you can think about, how much textures do I need for them to blend and to get that feel that is good enough or excellent even, but not to use, as I said, unique textures. So you, as you go, you are kind of like deciding, do I need one more texture? If the answer is yes, okay. I mean, you can add one texture, but you're always in contact with tech art department, and they are always analyzing the game and performance and memory stats. So it's balance between everything. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. I guess I'm wondering how much time does it take to create one creature, basically, when the 2D concepts are finished, and then we start high poly modeling, low poly, retopology, texturizing. How much does it generally take? I mean, it depends, of course, on the complexity.
Sorry. Well, yeah, it depends on the creature or character themselves, but usually because I'm not the character guy that much, I'm more into environments. The answer that I will give you is not maybe correct in fully correct, but yeah, I would say you have few days for concept and then it goes to approvals, and after that maybe it's some block out mesh for 3D, and in the same time there's someone working on high poly, and maybe someone even are starting to think about how to texture that and so on. But overall I would say, yeah, it depends on the complexity and what do you need from, but yeah, probably at least a week, but probably more.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry for...
Thanks, it's
yeah.
okay.
How many people have worked on the game, and if you can break that down to departments?
Well,
how many modelers, how many animators?
Yeah, for that I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not the best person to ask that question, but yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, we split people in teams of 2 for 3D and texture. So basically we don't have for now, like, we have dedicated environment and character, but it's kind of mixed, because if we, for example, in some case need to do, I don't know, environment more, then some guys that are quite generalist will help us there. So I'm not sure how much guys in which department we have for now. And sorry for that as well.
In total, do you know?
In total, Madhead Games had, like, I don't know, 160, but we are not, everybody, we are working on multiple projects, so it's not that like all those people are working. Yeah, around 60 people, I would say, is on Scars Above.
So what was the main inspiration for the organic environment?
Sorry.
What was the main inspiration for the organic environment? To me, it seems like some parts of Warframe, the game.
Well, that information didn't get to me. I wouldn't say that we tried to emulate something else, but because of the story reasons, I will not reveal what was the main inspiration. That's the reason why I will not reveal how this level is called, but yeah, something with creatures.
Hello?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the, can you tell us something about the textile density that you used for your environment assets?
Mm-hmm. Because we are cross-gen game,
yeah,
and we need to go to Gen 8 consoles and Gen 8 as well, so we decided for 512 pixels per meter for environment stuff.
512 per meter, okay,
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And also, did you use some kind of height maps to blend the tileable textures?
In some cases, yeah. It was case by case, because we needed to evaluate how much memory we have by every single level. So if we have some spare memory to use, then yeah, we will use height maps to drive those blends. On terrain, we did use parallax occlusion mapping. So there we had like high textures that drive. We didn't have tessellation. I mean, not in every single level, but parallax occlusion mapping we did.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Yep.
Here.
Sorry.
Regarding the environment and level design,
yep.
You showed us a lot of reusable assets. What's kind of the proportion in level design of repeatable and reusable assets and unique and hero assets?
Yeah, that was a nice question. And for environment stuff in general, you would try to use as much as possible of those reused. That's the reason why in organic part I said keyed bashable. So if you can somehow get more shapes from those, it's better because of memory, because you then have few meshes in memory. But for those, as I said, smaller micro stories, there you will have a lot more unique stuff, even unique textures and unique objects. And there, on those spotlight, if you will have a lot, because you need to drive some story bits. So there you will have a lot. Otherwise, you will try to reduce that number as much as possible, not to be super obvious, of course.
Thank you.
Sorry, for how long is the game in development currently?
Well, once again, I'm not the best person for that to answer. About 2 and 3 years, something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah. Well, I joined them lately, so not the best person for those kinds of questions. But yeah, around 2-3 years. 3 years, I think.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, so we have a bit more time. So if anyone has 1 or 2 questions, and that would be about it.
Last chance.
I'm using the chance because the mic is here. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
You mentioned on the one of previous questions, so using the hero assets and the regular assets, yes, reusable. So are you making more variations by using the same geometry and making the materials different and textures different? Or yes?
Exactly that, yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, in that organic part, we reused some meshes, but on them we applied new materials. So yeah, that's good question. I mean, and good question, and in general, good practice to use if you can. I mean, for some environments that are specific, you will not be able to do that. But for others, if you can, why to waste 3D environment artist time and texture artist and so on? So yeah, it's good to reuse. Okay, I think it's it, huh?
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You were great.